do a little bit of a warm-up since these are the type of types of problems that will be in your quiz today. So let's do a little bit of a warm-up, remind ourselves how to do these. So again, these will all involve AC method, but you might need to factor out a greatest common factor first. Okay. So first off, let's look at part A here. Do you see any common factor in all three terms there? No. So the only thing that divides, in particular, the only thing that divides 3 is 3 and 1. And certainly 3 doesn't divide. I have had problems with this all day. Just trying to change the color of my pen. 3 doesn't divide 8 or 10. So there isn't a greatest common factor. So how do we attack this type of factors problem? What do we do? What do we do to attack this one? Really, we would sit quietly. Yeah. Okay. Yeah, we need to do the 8 times the 3 first, right? We need to multiply the A and the C together. We're using AC method, right? 8 times your negative 3 is negative 24. We want to figure out what factors of 24 are. To start with, what are the factors of 24? 1 and 24, 2 and 12, 3 and 8. One more set, 4 and 6. Okay. Remember again, use your calculators if you need to. Start dividing, right? Does 2 go into it? Does 3 go into it? Does 4 go into it? And so on up the line until you get them all paired up, right? 1, 2, 3, and 4 go into 24. 5 doesn't, and we've already paired the 6 with the 4, so we're done with that. What does the negative tell you again for that 3 or that 24? Either or, what does the negative tell you? One has to be positive and one has to be negative. What do we need to add up to? Positive 10. So what do we need to put together to add up to positive 10? Yeah, positive 12 and negative 2, right? That'll add up to the negative 10. Or positive 10, sorry. So what do we do with those numbers now? How do we rewrite our expression? Was there something that goes with the 12? 12. Good. Minus 2x minus 3. Yep. So we use the 10. We're trying to get the 10x. So we're going to rewrite the 10x as the plus 12x and the minus 2x. Then what do we do? Factor by grouping. Good. So we're going to group the first 2 together, group the second 2 together. What can you factor out of the first 2 terms? 4x. Good. What are you left with when you factor out a 4x? What are you left with in the first term? 2x, and in the second term? 3. Good. We see a 2x plus 3 here. We also want to see a 2x plus 3 in the other one. So what do we need to factor out of the second pair there? Negative 1. Good. And that leaves us with 2x plus 3. And now what do we do as our final step? Good. And we factor out the whole 2x plus 3. We're left with a 4x on the first part and a minus 1 on the second part. Work on the other 3. Notice your last 2 here at GCF. Work on the other 3 for a couple of minutes or so. We'll chat about them, and then we'll review a little bit with the special forms that we started talking about last time. And then again, we'll do your quiz at the end. No, we're still working on some of them, but let's go ahead and start chatting about them. Again, if we look at part B here, again, the first thing you should always look for before you do anything else is what? Greatest common factor. Is there a greatest common factor on this one? I don't think so, right? Because 10 is 2 times 5, and certainly neither 2 nor 5 go into the other two. So there's not a GCF to factor out, right? Okay. So what's the next step? Yeah, the 9 times 10, right? We get 90, right? Okay. So what do we want to find next? The factors of 90, right? What are the factors of 90? 1 and 90, 2 and 45, 3 and 30, 5 and 15, or 5 and 16, sorry. 6 and, or it should be 18, sorry. Try that again. 16, 15, good, and then the 9 and the 10, right? So what do we need now? We need to add up to 21, and they both need to be the same sign, right? The plus 10 on the end. What adds up to 21? The 15 and 6 here. Okay. So what do we do with that again? Good. Yeah, we break down that 21x, right? We break down the 21 as 6 plus 15, so we have 6x plus 15x there in the middle. And at this point, we use what now to factor it? Grouping again. So what can you factor out of the first two terms? 3x. And you're left with 3x plus 2. Good. And out of the last two terms, you can factor out 5, and you're left with 3x plus 2. If it's going to factor, it better work that way, right? You better see the same thing in the first chunk as you do in the second chunk. Then finally, we can factor out yeah, so we're going to take out that whole thing that's in parentheses. We'll take out the 3x plus 2, and we're left with 3x plus 5. Again, remember, you can always check your answers, right? Multiply it back out, see that you got what you started with. You can always check your answers on this. So neither of these had a greatest common factor. But let's look at part C. Do you see a greatest common factor in part C? A 3x squared, right? 3 goes into all 3 of the coefficients, and there's certainly an x squared all the way and everything, right? So once we pull out the 3x squared, what are we left with? Okay. So yeah, we divide the 3 into the 6, we get a 2. We pulled out x squared, so there's still 2 x's left. Divide the 3 into the 33, we get 11. And we pulled out x squared, so there's still 1x left. Divide your 3 into the 45, we get 15. And we already factored out all the x's that were there. Now again, what do we do next? Yeah, we do the 15 times the 2, right? We pulled out the GCF. We want to use the AC method on this part that's left. 15 times 2 is 30. So we need factors of 30. And again, if you see which factors work right away, you don't have to write them all down. We're just writing them all down to make sure we can practice what we need. 1 and 30. What else? Good. What else? Okay. 5 and 6, and that's it, right? Since we have a plus 15, that tells us that both of these are going to need to be the same sign. Since it's a minus 11x, they both need to be negative, right? So what do we need to use to get negative 11? Yeah, negative 5 and negative 6, right? So what do we do with the negative 5 and the negative 6? And we replace the 11x, right? So we have 2x squared minus 6x minus 5x plus 15. Yes.
So the only thing that really stuck out is like what indicates you to switch.
What indicates the switch
Like,
what?
the name.
Oh, you can do it either way.
Well, when I do it like that, it'll tell me it's wrong. Like I'll get it wrong. If I did like 2x squared minus 5x minus 6x plus 15.
You should get the exact same thing either way. We can go through the other way and see whether we get the same thing. They'll be in the reverse order, but it should be the same thing.
Maybe then that's.
So what can we factor out of the first two terms here? 2x, and we're left with minus x minus 3. We need to see x minus 3 in the other part, so what do we need to factor out? A negative 5, right? And that leaves us with x minus 3 again. I definitely need to pull out the negative with it. Remember, when we pull out a negative, it flips the sign too. So what? X minus 3 or x plus 3. If you only pulled out positive 5, you'd be left with a negative x here. Then finally, in the last step, what would you do? Good. Yep, that's right. I do it in the other order, but that's okay. You can also write this, I'll just do this off to the side. You can also do this as 2x squared minus 5x minus 6x plus 15. You'll get to the same place. Here, we can factor out an x out of those two terms, and we're left with 2x minus 5. And then over here, we can factor out a minus 3 and be left with 2x minus 5. And then when we pull out the 2x minus 5, we get the same answer. You should get this. You should get the exact same answer. Yeah. Typically, you'll write it in the other order, but it should be exactly the same way. Yeah, it's easy to do on those. Yep. What questions? Other questions do you have on this one? Remember, it's GCF first, and then do AC at that point. This last one, do you see a GCF? 5y? Okay. Yep. Certainly 5 divides everything. And then we also have a y in every term. 5 goes into the 50 10 times. 5 goes into 115, what is that, 23 times? And 5 goes into 25 5 times. So we should get 10x squared minus 23x minus 5. And then just like the last ones, we're going to multiply the 10 and the negative 5 together. Get negative 50. We do our factors of 50. Well, yeah, that's 50 is fine. 1 and 50 work. 2 and 25 work. 3 doesn't work for 50. 4 doesn't go into 50. 5 and 10 works. 6 doesn't work. 7 doesn't work. 8 doesn't work. 9 doesn't work. I think that's it. So those are the only pairs that we have. The negative, again, tells you one has to be positive and one has to be negative. So essentially you're subtracting them, right? I need negative 23, so what do we need to use? Yeah, the 2 and the 25, right? It needs plus 22 and minus 25. Plus 2x minus 25x minus 5. So we'll rewrite that negative 23 as plus 2x and minus 25x. Out of the first two terms, what can we factor out? Out of the first two terms, we can factor out 2 and an x, right? And left with 5x plus 1. What can we factor out of the second two terms? Yeah, negative 5. And that leaves us with, better be 5x plus 1 if we're going to factor it, right? Because they have to match. And then at the end, we'll have 5x plus 1 times 2x minus 5. So again, the process on these, same every time, right? Factor out the GCF and then use your AC method. What questions do you have on any of these? Well, I was going to do some more with the special forms today, but I want to make sure you have enough time to take your quiz. So we'll go ahead and do that now. And again, you can go when you're done. There's two sides. There's 6 problems. There's just plenty of space to work. So make sure you do both sides. We'll do more of the factoring special forms on Monday. The next section is just a review of all the factoring techniques. Just put them all together. So we'll do that on Monday as well. So you're doing the GCF for those two things. So more budgeting, well, yeah, you take the more that you need, get the two, pull out one, actually, more budgeting, well, 3 times, and you pull out the next. Correct, yep.
So Nancy's on it or it's not?
AC is on here, yeah. Yeah, AC is on here, yep, but not the special